So this past week we uploaded a video of Sarah shooting a couple of agricultural shows up here in the northwest of England. Now the video has been well received, especially as it isn't a street photography video, and people have said some really lovely things in the comments about Sarah's work and style. But inevitably we always get one person who feels the need to write comments like this one. Not only was it rude and unnecessary, it didn't make any sense. And then he posted a further comment. Now, he obviously believes that street photography has to be shot a certain way, and that using a GoPro is somehow moving people away from this way of shooting. His problem isn't with GoPro. His problem is that he has such a narrow-minded view of what street photography is. But one of the things we can do as photographers to prevent ourselves becoming almost insular, if that's the right word, of just restricting ourselves all the time to a particular way of shooting, is to actually go and try and do something different. Go and experiment. Experimentation helps me to think about things differently. It resets the creative side of my brain, and sometimes I'll experiment with something and it will lead me down a different path. It will lead me to a better way of doing something, and that can only be a good thing. So earlier this month, just for a week, I decided to try a few different things and see where it would take me. Now normally my go-to focal length on the street is a 28mm, but when I first started this channel 3 years ago, 21mm was my preferred focal length. I didn't even own a 28mm. Well, I did, but Sarah took it off me and I never got it back. And that was about 10 years ago. So I never actually had one of my own until a couple of years ago when I decided to buy one. The 28mm is smaller, it's lighter, I don't need to be so close to people to shoot with it, it doesn't distort very much, the flare is very well controlled, there's literally no vignetting. All round, it is a much better lens than the 21mm. To be honest, I've not used 21 seriously for over 18 months. So in this week of experimentation, the first thing I decided to do was take the 21mm back out again. And I also took another focal length with me as well, which we'll cover shortly. But when I got the 21mm on the street, the first thing that struck me was how far away I was from everybody. Bear in mind, this was my go-to focal length for a number of years. The period of using the 28mm had forced me back 6 feet. So I'd got used to shooting at a certain distance, and I needed to close that gap down with the 21 before I could actually get anything meaningful. So the first part of using that focal length was me basically relearning what I'd forgotten when I went over to the 28mm. But once I got that operating distance right, I'll admit it was like putting on an old pair of shoes again.
Is it easy if we walk between the two of us?
No, I think he's tired.
Do you want to go back?
Now unfortunately I started to get back into an old bad habit of mine, which was as I got closer to the subject I tilted the camera to quite a strong degree. Now this can be effective for some images, but it can also look quite cliched. One of the reasons why I went away from the 21mm in the first place was because of this look. With the 28mm I naturally stand further away, so I don't need to tilt the camera to the same degree in order to get a head or a person actually in the shot. Now, I also took a second focal length out with me during this week, and that was the 90mm. I don't know why I did this. Well, actually I do. I had a legitimate reason for doing so. It had just come back from being serviced. It was back focusing. I hadn't used this lens for about 20 years. I never really got it repaired or sorted out. A couple of M6s had to go in to be repaired, so I sent the 90 in with it, and it had come back, and I needed to check that everything had been done to the lens that needed to be done. I tip my hat to anyone that can shoot street with this lens and a rangefinder camera. For me, it was like trying to run a marathon with heavy boots on. It was so slow, it was cumbersome. I found myself having to stop literally every time I took a photograph and wait for something to happen within an image, because I couldn't just run and gun with it. It was just far too slow, and the field of view is far too narrow. I also realised how much I actually dislike that compressed perspective that a short telephoto gives you. It works for some people, and I've seen some street photographs which are absolutely amazing shot with this kind of focal length, but it's not for me. The second thing that I did in this week of experimentation, and perhaps the most important thing really from a creative point of view, was that I decided to shoot some colour. I've flirted with it in the past, but I've never really been interested in shooting colour seriously. Black and white has been the constant in my photographic life. From the moment that I first picked up a camera and shot my first roll of film in 1988, I have shot 75 to 80% of my work in black and white. So what did I do in this week of experimentation? I dusted off my old M9-P and I went out and took some pictures with it. Now this was quite an interesting exercise, I've got to be honest. Normally when I'm out shooting, I will look for gesture and moments and framing and layers and characters, and without ever actually looking at the colour, to the point where I can take a photograph of somebody on the street and I couldn't tell you what colour their jacket was, for example. So when I was out on the street this time, I was looking at colour being the primary reason for a photograph being interesting. Now when we were out on the street, I was with Sarah and Xander. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that Xander, our Doberman, he's a year old now, is being trained to go out with us actually on the street when we're shooting. So there's some idle chit chat and some banter going on between the two of us as we're walking around, but nothing too incriminating, I don't think.
Come on then. You got time to fish up? Why? Do you know what time's it like?
Oh yeah.
Or the rush starts, because there's a problem with the rush, isn't there, normally?
Oh, I
You're only gonna...
mediocre.
Yeah. Rather go and get some...
Nice, something nice. I think the food at Marks and Spencer's is nice than the food anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it is.
You a bag?
No, I know, as well.
Blue line, 4 and 1.
Look at all the fill.
Red line, unlucky, the sum 13. Blue line, 5 and 8.
Lovely. Beautiful. Light's awful at the moment. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, we'd love to see you subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next video. Take care.